Hi, welcome to the first episode of OtherSpace Audio Logs. I'm Wes Platt, creator of OtherSpace, a text-based real-time role-playing game that's been around since 1998. I'm also a former journalist for the St. Petersburg Times, and I'm the writer-designer for Knee Deep, a swamp noir adventure game by Prologue Games. I owe Nick Palazzo a huge amount of thanks for suggesting the idea of revisiting past scenes and presenting them in audio form. But before we get to the first episode, not rapid but reliable, let me tell you a few things about OtherSpace and our storytelling format. As I mentioned before, OtherSpace has been online pretty much non-stop since 1998. Back in the day, it was one of the most popular original theme games of its kind. On busy nights, we had upwards of 100 players on at any given time. That's changed, of course, for lots of reasons, not the least of which is the advent of massive games like World of Warcraft, but also the decline of telnet use and the rise of mobile gaming. But I think there are still plenty of people with a creative urge to share space opera stories, and OtherSpace remains a great place to scratch that itch, especially now that we've begun a shift to Slack as a role-playing platform, letting players participate via web browser or mobile app on a smartphone. In our scenes, players take turns posing what their characters are doing or saying, and others respond. We bounce the story back and forth, sometimes in real time, sometimes days apart if we're all very busy, in a creative improvisation. I want to say thanks to Elwindus and Newt for their contributions as raconteur level sponsors on our Patreon, patreon.com/jointhesaga. Every year I spend about $250 for hosting OtherSpace through Linode.com. It covers our website, it covers hosting the mush, and it covers the monthly backup fees that we have to spend. It's not a lot out of my pocket, but every little bit helps in this day and age, and I really appreciate it. It especially helps now that I've started this program of recognizing players who are doing their best to promote the game on social media and who are participating in scenes, just kind of all-around great players. Every month I'm going to be giving out a $25 Amazon.com gift certificate starting this month. Again, helping with the Patreon is a great way to show your support. That's at patreon.com/jointhesaga. So I'm astonished because I'm looking at the story here, not rapid but reliable, and I'm thinking about the fact that this scene took place in the year 2000, that this actually played out in real time when I was still a journalist at the St. Petersburg Times. I still lived in Florida. I was in my first marriage. It seems like it was a lifetime ago. In the history of OtherSpace, this was a period when I had taken the entire player base and thrown them together aboard Sanctuary, this massive colony ship. They were escaping an invasion of the Orion Arm in the Milky Way galaxy by warmongering Kryptonians, these vicious aliens that were taking over the known worlds. But one of my favorite things to come out of this period was that the players behind Marcus and Jesliana, who show up in this scene, they actually met on OtherSpace, they fell in love, they got married, and it was like eHarmony. OtherSpace was eHarmony before eHarmony came along. There were a few people who met and got together as a result of OtherSpace. So I thought that was fantastic, and shout out to them. And I hope all is going well for everybody who was involved in this 17 years ago. Holy crap. Anyway, here we go with not rapid but reliable. Ping! The lift doors slide open and a massive Zangali rumbles off, his head hanging due to sheer weight between his shoulders. His name is Knuckles. His spiked hands dangle toward the floor, threatening to scrape the deck. Marcus stands with Teal and Firemane, evidently having some sort of conversation. Teal nods to Marcus, grinning. I look forward to hearing about your changes, Sly. Firemane glances over toward the Zangali. For a change, no disgust shows on the Damarian's face. Knuckles cocks his head slightly, lifts his snout, and snorts the air. He growls, turning slowly, speaking before he sets eyes on Firemane. Damarian. Firemane raises her head, her stance utterly polite and formal. Yes? Knuckles shrugs, his shoulders clanking. Knuckles just say what he see, like Softskin see cockroach. Marcus dips his head to Teal, looking to the side real quickly and raising an eyebrow at the Zengali before looking back at Teal. He peeks at his chronometer and says, Well, I should get going. Gotta pay someone a visit right quick like before I sleep. Take care, Teal. At this he turns away, heading for Knuckles, though, pulling up short. Behave yourself, he says simply, the edges of his mouth quirking upward very briefly. Jessliana steps out of the theater, a white silk scarf in her hands. She stops, eyes on Knuckles. Marcus's eyes travel up the massive Zengali's lumbering frame, and his eyes flicker the briefest of recognition. Damn it. He says this even as he turns to look back behind him, eyes tracing across Teal, Firemane, and then Jessliana. Here we go again, he mutters more to himself than anyone else. Teal puts her hands on her hips as she notes the huge Zengali. Must ate the big rats, she mumbles. Firemane smiles, her ears twitching slightly, but no other part of her stance changes. She considers saying something and then turns back to Teal. Have you met my mate yet? She is also a senator. Teal pauses in thought, snaps her fingers. Ebonpelt? Firemane nods. That would be my dear Ebony, she smiles, who got herself a job. I'm not used to my mate representing lots of people. Teal waves a hand in dismissal. You'll get used to it. Besides, she needs somebody to watch her back. Jessliana saunters over to the Zengali. Knuckles chortles, then turns and stomps toward the next available lift. He presses a button with a clawed finger, jamming the button. Ping! The doors whoosh open, and an arrow glows green, pointing upward. The lift is, however, packed with about a dozen Castori who, although relatively small, still take up a lot of horizontal space within. The Zengali growls at them as the doors whoosh closed again. Jessliana's eyes narrow as she just happens to move toward the lift, too. Marcus smirks at the scene, eyes going back to his chronometer, then towards the elevator heading down. Knuckles prods the lift button, but it appears hopelessly jammed. He snarls and begins to pound the panel. Machines are never to be trusted, Jess drawls, leaning against the wall and watching Knuckles. They hardly ever listen to the finer things in life, like brute force. Wham! Wham! The panel begins to buckle with the force of the blows from Knuckles. Wham! 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 Sparks fly and smoke tendrils waft toward the ceiling. Marcus keeps his distance from the lift, however, but as Knuckles begins to pound at the elevator, he speaks up with, Hey! Cut it out! Now! Knuckles flicks his eye membranes and swivels his shovel-shaped head malevolently toward the source of the command. He hisses at Marcus. Silent, soft skin. Firemane winces. Ow, angry lip. Person alert. On the opposite side of the corridor, another lift pings open, a friendly green arrow glowing upward. The lift, naturally, is empty. Jiminy Cricket! Teal rushes to the elevator, anxious. Hey, big guy, you're breaking it! Jessliana's eyes narrow. Knuckles. That is your name, right? The lift on the other side of the corridor, unseen by Knuckles, is boarded by a skittering odorite. The doors whoosh shut, and away it goes. Spines bristling atop his head, the Zengali flickers his eye membranes and rumbles deeply in his throat, looking Marcus up and down, apparently sizing him up for the rare non-vegetarian meal. Then he turns his cold attention to Jessliana. Who asked? Marcus quirks his lips to the side, folding his arms across his chest as he merely shakes his head and stares back at the Zengali. Teal is, at the moment, more concerned with getting the elevator fixed. She examines the panel and pulls tools off her belt, scowling. The lift alarm begins to buzz repeatedly. Apparently, the car carrying the Castori has become stuck between decks. Jessliana looks up, meeting the Zengali's eyes unflinchingly. Come on now. You're a very impressive specimen, Knuckles. You're bound to cause attention, such a strong, able warrior like yourself. I have heard of you. Knuckles thumps his chest proudly, the spikes fused into his knuckles, scraping familiar furrowed scars. Me Knuckles! Knuckles, top enforcer for Boss Cabrera! Jessliana nods firmly. I can see that, and I can see why Cabrera would hire such a person. She smiles. Bet he doesn't even need any of the other enforcers with you on his side. Teal pauses for a second as the Zingali introduces himself, then proceeds to open the access panel for the elevator wiring. High-pitched hooting and grunting can be heard coming from within the elevator shaft, accompanying the wailing alarm buzzer. Knuckles shrugs hugely. Boss not have just Knuckles, but Knuckles is top enforcer. Boss say so. Jessliana frowns a little. Hey, Knuckles, I was wondering, not that your boss needs another enforcer, but he might need something else? She smiles. Like me, I can do many things which he might find interesting and useful. Jess' wide gray eyes glitter, lips curved. He might be very grateful to you if you arranged a meeting. Knuckles chortles. Knuckles no receptionist. Boss Cabrera no hiring. Knuckles other things must do. Sparks fly out of the panel, causing Teal to dodge. She then snorts. Gotta patch around the XR board. It's hoopin' shorted out. Wires and cutters are employed as she runs a route of wiring around the damaged part. Marcus's eyes roll upwards, though he hides any further response with closed lids, slowly opening them again to stare blankly at the Zingali. The hoots and whistles in the shaft are getting more and more urgent. The alarm continues to buzz. Then who would I talk to? Jest asks. Who would be his receptionist? Boss Cabrera was very smart to hire you. He's certainly smart enough to want to talk to me. Nielsen steps off one of the lifts, a pair of tools slung over his shoulder. 5 more men follow him out. Knuckles laughs raspily. Boss Cabrera hired me long time ago. Boss not in public business. Jessliana's eyes narrow again. Neither am I. Knuckles brings his eyes back to Jessliana. You tell Knuckles' name. Knuckles might tell Boss. My name is Liana, Jess says, voice quieter now, and, like I said, your boss will like me, very much. The drawl and light innuendo is strengthened by the half-litting eyes and faint smirk. Hell, I even provide references. She winks. Knuckles doesn't seem like he's quite bright enough to catch anything remotely resembling subtlety or innuendo. Knuckles might mention. Knuckles better. His boss might give him a promotion or a raise. Who knows? I'll bet Cabrera rewards well, Jess notes. Knuckles shrugs, his shoulders rising like low hills flanking his mountainous head. Knuckles not get much more than top enforcer. He scratches his chest with a clawed finger. Except maybe top enforcer. Jessliana nods slowly. I'll bet that is what he gives you if you arrange a meeting with me and him, she says confidingly. Knuckles snorts. Knuckles think about it. Nielsen heads over to Teal. Heyo, elevator problems? Teal looks up at Nielsen. Hey, Johann, the lift is stuck. I'm thinking it's the XR board got shorted out. Nielsen smirks. XR board, eh? He thunks heavily on the lift doors. Anyone there, he calls? Someone hoots, whistles, and grunts from above. The alarm buzzer goes off again. Nielsen chuckles quietly to himself and calls, Just hang in there, we'll get you out. Is anyone hurt? Teal says, Bunch of Castori, Johann, you speak it? Nielsen shrugs. Nope. He arches his brow. I'll assume that's a yes for now. He takes a small comm unit off a clip on his coat. 109 to all units. Return all except for Rescue 4, Medic 27. Unknown number of Castori stuck in an elevator. He clips the unit back on and looks to Teal. Now explain this XR board? A group of 8 men, clad in turnout suits, steps off of another arriving lift. One carries a portable generator, others a pair of saws. Yama looks with alarm at the men with large, sharp instruments. Teal carefully attaches new wiring in the panel as she speaks. The Zingali gent over there punched the lift button one too many times, sent a surge through the XR board, cracked it something fierce. I'm just shunting the power around it to get the lift going again. Nielsen nods slightly and looks over to the group. All right, looks like we got a possible solution, but just in case, Cap, what say you we send a team up to the next level, rig a high-angle system? One of the men nods and says something in hushed tones to a cluster. 4 men head back to the lift. Others set down their equipment and wait. Yama follows the large instrument-bearing men to Teal. His face is either grinning or grimacing. He leans over Teal's shoulder, attempting to prop himself up gracefully. Not interrupting, am I? Knuckles swivels his snout ponderously toward Teal and Nielsen. Fix it! Teal's attention is on the panel, but she manages to murmur, Hey, you yam. I'll be done in a min. Marcus covers the lower portion of his face with a hand, eyes peering over fingertips to focus on Jessliana, a brief shake of his head before looking back at Knuckles. Knuckles growls. Knuckles not have all night. Nielsen rolls his eyes, chuckling. Hear that a lot in this line of work, sure do. He says to the rest of the firefighters, if a high angle fails, we'll force the doors. Lights and I'll start with a Halligan. That fails, either spread it, bag it, or cut it. Decide amongst yourselves. Yama hisses, sparing a hasty glance over Teal's head at the hulking reptile. Is that the big Gnoll? How do I get in touch with you again, Enforcer, if I need to ask your expertise on something? Jest asks Knuckles, nodding. Ping! Another lift on the opposite side of the corridor whooshes open. Again, a green upward arrow glows. Again, the Zengali is oblivious to it. 3 Centaurans drift tinklingly aboard. The doors whoosh closed. Knuckles snarls at Jessliana. Knuckles find you where? Jessliana looks up at Knuckles. I'm often at the theater that just opened up, she says easily, and if you leave a message with someone on the pause end, I'll get it. Knuckles flicks his forked tongue between sharp teeth and glowers down at Jessliana. Pause end? Furball ship? Jessliana nods. Yeah, I have someone I know there. Knuckles flicks his eye membranes. Knuckles no like furballs. Jessliana shrugs. Then find me at the theater, or perhaps, well, I sort of know someone on the black unmarked ship over there, but not well. You could try leaving a message there. She sounds doubtful. Be well, Enforcer, Jess says. Her eyes flicker ever so faintly. Her hand eases off the blaster and she turns, walking away. Knuckles grunts. Knuckles might mention. Knuckles like idea being top Enforcer. Jessliana moves to the flight deck, eyes hard as granite. Okay, I got it routed, Teal sighs. Now let's see if it'll work. She closes the panel. Nielsen's comlink crackles to life. 4's one deck up. Got a high-angle rig set up. We'll force the doors open and implement on your word. He looks over to Teal. Ready when you are. Yama raps impatiently on the bulkhead. A large mob of men in reflective yellow turnout suits hangs around, many with large power tools of varying sorts. Teal stands up and gently pushes the elevator button. Daniil looks around after stepping off another lift. What's going on? The lift machinery begins to whine in protest, and then it can be heard moving again, descending. Ping! The lift doors whoosh open, revealing an empty compartment. The arrow glows red, aiming downward. Knuckles flicks his eye membranes and growls, Knuckles not take! Nielsen blinks. In fact, the whole mob of firefighters blinks. They become very quiet. Finally, Nielsen asks, Okay, what happened? The emergency hatch in the ceiling of the lift appears to have been dislodged. Nielsen cautiously steps into the lift, leaving a foot in the door. He unclips a searchlight from his suit and scans the roof of the car. Daniil frowns. What is wrong with that lift? No hooting, no whistling, no grunting except for the frustrated growl coming from Knuckles. Teal puts her myriad tools back on her belt. Daniil, you need a new XR board for this lift. It got shorted out. I did a quick fix to get it working again, but you better get your boffins on it. Nielsen rummages around in a pocket for a moment. He removes a small metal wedge and sticks it in the door. Someone get in touch with 4, tell him to get the doors open up there. He calls to the mob. He then looks to Teal. Can you break this thing again? Marcus takes a breath, looking back to the chronometer and then the firefighters behind him. It fixed yet? Teal raises a brow skyward. Break it again? You think of the Castorio just loosen the shaft? Yama looks utterly confused. How'd they fit the little midgets up into the shaft? Nielsen smirks. Something like that. He stares up into the shaft again, calling, Hello? Hello? Somewhere in the distance far above come the sound of urgent hooting. A man with red trim on his turnout suit heads over to join Nielsen. They converse quietly for a moment, then the man pulls out a comm unit. 4, got that door open yet? No, is the crackly reply. Knuckles turns his attention back to the lift Nielsen is working on. He shouts, Let lift go! Knuckles want upride! Nielsen clips his light back onto his suit and says, Someone, lights, boost me up! A large Zengali, about 8.5 feet tall, thuds over. He quickly grabs Nielsen's foot and helps boost him up toward the emergency hatch. Ping! A lift on the opposite side of the corridor, behind Knuckles, whooshes open. The friendly green arrow glows upward. Once more, the Zengali is oblivious. A pair of Damarians wander aboard the lift, the doors whoosh closed, and away it goes. "Somebody get up there with a saw, cut the doors off," shouts one of the men. A couple firefighters heft up large saws and head for another lift. Teal sighs, then says very, very calmly, "Yam, the Castori got stuck on the elevator. They climbed up the emergency hatch and out." Nielsen scrambles out on top of the elevator's roof. He flicks on his light again. "Hello?" Nothing but faintly illuminated shadows can be seen, stretching for what seems an eternity. The radio Nielsen carries crackles with static. "Sir, we're getting reports of violent allergic reactions of some kind in the diplomatic quarter. Apparently one of the mystics has a terrible fur allergy." Knuckles growls. "Knuckles need lift! When lift be ready!" Teal gives a low whistle. "Man, they've been climbing hard." Nielsen sighs and grabs his radio. "Great. Clear Medic 27 of this and send 27 for that." He thinks for a moment, looking around. "Give it a medical box. We'll still be on the scene here. 4, go and cancel the saws." Knuckles pounds angrily on the wall directory, forgetting maybe the spikes fused to his knuckles. Crash! The glass covering the display shatters, raining shards on the floor. Teal raises an arm to shield herself from the flying glass, startled. Marcus sighs and turns for the flight deck, shaking his head miserably. Messes. Nielsen starts. He quickly jumps down from the elevator, landing hard on his feet. What now? Ping! Once more, a lift opens behind Knuckles on the other side of the corridor. This time the arrow glows red, aiming downward. About a dozen Castori are aboard. They look rather out of breath, but amused with themselves. The doors whoosh closed. One of the many firefighters, in turning away from the glass, spots the Castori. He stares for a moment, then says, I think we can clear." Knuckles blinks dumbly at the shattered directory, then at his pebble-fleshed fist, now embedded with a few shards. He ponders them not so much as a detriment or injury, but as a useful addition to his arsenal. Nielsen scoops up his metal wedge and drops it back in his pocket. He steps out of the lift. "What the hey? What happened?" Daniil shakes his head. "Knuckles here got a little frustrated." He looks at the control panel inside the elevator. Knuckles snorts, then turns and seems to notice the other bank of lifts for the first time. He cocks his head, studying them as if they might be an illusion, and then, apparently satisfied they are real enough, thumps toward them. He presses the call button with a clawed finger. A company captain takes his own radio and calls, "Ladder 109, Rescue 4, stuck elevator, approximately 12 trapped occupants. Occupants freed themselves. Lift is... something. Will advise. Stand by." The man walks over toward Teal. "This lift working again?" Yama raps once more. "Just how far up are these guys?" Teal picks a small bit of glass out of her arm. She nods to the man. "For now." The captain nods. "Thanks." He turns his attention back to the radio. "Lift is operational for now. Advise maintenance personnel check it out ASAP. Rescue 4 can go in service. 109 will be remaining." Ping! Lift doors whoosh open. Knuckles stares up at the signal arrow. Green, glowing upward. He moves to step aboard, but encounters a solid barrier of squeaking, hooting, and whistling fur. A dozen Castori beaming toothily and chittering amongst themselves. Knuckles takes a step back, roaring furiously as the doors whoosh closed. Nielsen shakes his head slowly. He pulls off his helmet, putting his arm through the chin strap, and walks over to Teal. "You okay?" Yama stares taciturnly at Nielsen, knowing she'd been used to more. "You okay, Teal?" He sucks on a cut thumb. Teal's icy glare follows Knuckles as he heads for the new lift, catching the arrival of the Castori dozen. "Just a little cut. I'm okay." True to his single-minded nature, Knuckles fixes his attention on the panel that provided the source of his frustration again. Knuckles draws back a fist to begin hammering the unblemished call panel when another lift on that side of the corridor pings open with an arrow glowing greenly upward, with a compartment that is adequately devoid of passengers, Castori or otherwise. Knuckles growls, the spines flattening atop his head. "About time!" he stomps aboard the lift. Well, thanks for listening to episode 1 of our OtherSpace audio logs, not rapid but reliable. Hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you take the opportunity to join us and make more of these stories a reality on our Slack site. You can join. One of the easiest ways to join is subscribing through slackpass.io/jointhesaga. That'll get you connected with the Slack site, and we have channels for each planet where activities are taking place. We've got out-of-character channels for people to talk and socialize and hang out. And again, it's free to play, free to participate, and be sure to check us out. And again, the Patreon is at patreon.com/jointhesaga. Until next time, thanks again for listening. I'm Wes Platt. Take care.